it's important for me to make sure that people that come in are feeling welcomed off the bat. And so the community that we have created at the studio is one of warmth, of welcoming, of come as you are, and everybody's just part of it from the moment they walk in, from day one. And I hope you felt that way when you came for your first class.
Look, the biggest podcast where you can learn them lessons. Line for line where you can learn from different sections. Made it out the mud, come tell your story, blessings. Never know who listening, never know who stressing. Divine gave you a voice, come speak your honest truth. Line for line, go bar for bar, it's up to you. Wanna talk sports, gov, and politics? Wanna talk about where you from and your accomplishments? Then Line for Line is really where you need to be. A platform that's really made for folks like you and me. You can find it all no matter what you seek. Whether you calling or you listening, tune in every week.
All right. Welcome back to another special episode of Line for Line Podcast. I'm your host with the most, Devon Booker. We have a generous lady in the building. If you're followers of Line for Line, you may have seen us from being at Santosha. You may have seen her on the podcast back when we first got started. But with no further ado, we have Mrs. Joya Santarelli in the building. Joya, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me again.
Of course. The most cliche thing we do when we start Line for Line Podcast, we have the guests just tell the world just a little bit about themselves, what it is that they do, their profession, things that they do of that nature. The floor is all yours, ma'am.
Ooh, that's a loaded question. All right. Well, I am a lifelong Kenosha resident, a wife and a mother, and I also own Santosha Yoga in Pleasant Prairie.
Of course.
So I'm living my best life, owning a yoga studio and teaching people all about my love for the practice of yoga.
Of course. Now, a lot of people want to know, myself included, what first drew you to yoga? And just tell us about the journey that led to Santosha.
Great question. And quite honestly, I was drawn to yoga in a way that wasn't really conventional. So 12 years ago, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and my neurologist is the one that said to me, you need to start practicing yoga immediately. And I took his words and signed up for my first class the next day, and I never really looked back. I loved it so much. I started practicing at Yoga and Friends, which is located in downtown Kenosha, and it started on my love for the practice there, and it just transpired over the years to the point where I decided to get my own teacher training. Wasn't sure if I'd ever really teach yoga, but I just wanted to learn so much more about it. And next thing I knew, people started coming to my backyard to practice yoga in the middle of the pandemic. So June of 2020, and that's where Santosha Yoga started. So basically on a patch of grass in my backyard.
Of course. Now, how would you describe the philosophy of Santosha Yoga?
That's easy. It's come as you are. Basically, however you are as a person, we don't care if you have any background in yoga. We don't care if you've been practicing for years. We want everyone to feel comfortable exactly as they are, to come in and do what it is that they can do. And that's going to depend on the day for the person as well. So it's definitely a place that's open to anyone, irregardless of their backgrounds.
Of course. This question is going to help people like myself. How do you balance being the business owner and the instructor, teacher as well?
I have a lot of help, and that's how I do it. In addition to myself, there are 20 other instructors at the studio.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So I lean on everybody. We work together as a team. My husband is also very helpful with running the business. And I have a studio manager, Laura Gaddy, who is fabulous as well. So I wouldn't be able to do all of this without the help of all of these people.
It takes a village.
It definitely takes a village, yes.
Of course. Now, how important would you say community is in your studio's mission?
Very important. I mean, I feel like we have our own community at Santosha within the Kenosha Pleasant Prairie community. But one thing that I love about Santosha is I've somehow created the culture where new people come in and they instantly feel welcomed. And that was important for me because I know how it can be intimidating to go into any kind of workout place if you've never done it before and you're nervous and you're scared and you're apprehensive about things. So it's important for me to make sure that people that come in are feeling welcomed off the bat. not. And so the community that we have created at the studio is one of warmth, of welcoming, of come as you are, and everybody's just part of it from the moment they walk in, from day one. And I hope you felt that way when you came for your first class.
I definitely did. It was a great experience for me. I was a bit nervous as being a guy, like the whole thing around yoga. Oh, yoga is for women, but it's more for everyone. Like you said, come as you are, no matter who you are. But I was just nervous. I was like, first off, I work out a lot. So when I work out, I sweat. And that was like the biggest thing for me. I was like, no, they're going to be looking at me some type of way because I'm going to be sweating and all that. I might be out of breath and all that. I can't bend in the way that these ladies can bend. I was so scared. But you guys made me feel really welcome and very comfortable as well, too.
I love that. And you did so well.
I appreciate that. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So as another business owner, how is it that you keep yourself from burning out, maintaining the day-to-day, maintaining the marketing, the scheduling, things of that nature? How is it that you stay sane and comfortable, I would say?
That's a great question, too. I mean, honestly, and it goes back to what I said before, you can't do it all on your own. You can't. And I think a smart business person realizes that, and they delegate and they reach out for help. And I also like to surround myself with people that have more talent than I do in terms of certain things. I don't know anything about social media or marketing, nothing. What? So I rely on people that know those things. So surrounding yourself with people that are pretty bright is also, I think, a great way as a business person to keep your business flourishing. You don't ever want to think you know it all, because first of all, you don't. And second of all, I think that's just a path to destruction. So I like to surround myself with people who know what they're doing and know what they're talking about, and are also very loyal to the community, which is so important. Of
course. Are there any new rollouts that you guys are bringing out, or any new experiences that are coming, any new trainers, teachers, things of that nature, ma'am?
Nothing completely on the horizon as of yet, but I will say we are always rolling out new types of classes. Bar is very new at our studio, and we have 2 instructors that teach the bar classes, and that is you've got to come try that. That is such an amazing workout. Full
Everyone
body.
wants to put me through all these crazy things.
We want to. Low impact is a great exercise, but we try to keep it interesting by having like classes themed around different times of the year.
Okay.
This past Wednesday, we had a glow yoga class, so with all black lights, and it was glow in the dark yoga, which was pretty fun. We're doing another retreat next February in El Salvador. So the retreats have been very popular at the studio as well. So who knows what's up on our sleeve?
If you need anyone to document that entire journey or anything like that, I think that there's a couple people out there that you can reach out. I don't know their names or anything like that, but if you don't, you can see them. Okay.
Yes.
But next question though, can you just tell us a little bit about a time where you saw yoga transform someone's life?
Oh, so many times. I mean, I get a front row seat to watching this happen. And I'm not going to lie, like every time I teach a class, I feel like I'm so in tune with my students, and I know so much of what's going on in their lives personally. So I get to see just the transformation right then and there. And it happens every single time. For whatever reason, yoga has such a calming effect on people. And it's just amazing to watch people walk in one way and transform throughout that 60-minute class and walk out feeling so much lighter. So it's really cool to be able to see that.
Of course.
I'm interested to know, when you said earlier about yoga is typically for females, or, people are under the impression that it's not really a male-centered practice. And it's interesting to me. Why do you think that way?
To be honest, my thought, I would say, because I've never been a fan of listening to, I'm going to put these constraints on something like yoga, say it's only for females. But I would think just because of all maybe the stretching, the yoga pants, and typically it's something that requires you to be flexible, and if you're not like a former athlete or things of that nature, I feel like most men don't look at men as being flexible or look at it as masculine.
I get it. I get what you're saying. And I think it's changing though. I do think it's slowly changing, where more and more men are realizing yoga is for everybody, and I'm benefiting so greatly, not just physically, but mentally too. So it's changing, and I love to see more and more men coming into practice. But I get what you say. You feel like in order to practice yoga, you have to be flexible. And I think that's where the the disconnect is. You practice yoga to become more flexible, right? Just like you practice anything to become better at it, you practice yoga to become more flexible. When I first started, I wasn't that flexible at all. And through any kind of practice, it just happens, just with anything. I mean, I'm sure the first time you turned on your mic and started with a podcast, you probably look back and think, I had so much more I could have done or said or done differently. And just through practice with anything, and the same goes for yoga too. So I really hope more men get into it and realize the benefits, because you can do it your whole life.
I'll be the face of transforming men's minds when it comes to that. Is I'll be that guy to go through the fire, and that's what this podcast is all about.
I love it.
Giving people that authentic side and say, hey, look, I'll go through the fire and I'll ask these questions that maybe people want to know, but maybe sometimes people don't necessarily have the platform to ask the questions. Maybe sometimes they're nervous because they don't want to have people think, oh, that was a silly question, or, oh, he doesn't know everything. And that takes it back to, we don't know it all, and sometimes you don't know things. How else do you know things if you don't ask, right?
Very true. Very true.
Yes, ma'am. And that just opens the door to my next question of how thoughtful, excuse me, let me rephrase that. How does mindfulness go into your teaching approach?
I mean, it's a huge part of yoga. And first you have to think, what does mindfulness even really mean? What does it mean to you?
I would say having a open-minded approach when it comes to having this collective of people come to you for your expertise, your advice, your skill set, and just understanding that, I can't operate with Joya the same way I operate with Kevin. Kevin may not perceive it or understand it in the same complexity that Joya may too. So you have to be open and understand that there's different eyes and different strokes for different folks, I would say.
That's very true. And I think mindfulness is one of those words that is going to mean something different to each person. When I think of mindfulness in terms of how it relates to the practice of yoga, so think about it. We are constantly stimulated with devices and just everything around us at all times. When you are in that space, hopefully you're not scrolling on your phone. Hopefully you are just in tune to your body and your breath and what you're doing. And that's our goal as instructors, is to get people out of their heads for that 60 minutes, which we don't have a lot of time to do in life. I mean, it doesn't happen very often. So that's the goal, is to really get people just to be as present, grounded as possible throughout that 60 minutes without having the mind wander to all sorts of scenarios that haven't happened and probably won't. It's a chance just to get yourself out of the fight or flight mode that we all find ourselves in.
And I like that you said that. I like the way that you said it, because oftentimes when we're on our way to yoga or on the way to the gym, we're dealing with our kids. We're
always,
oh, well, I just got off of work. Now I got to make sure I got this submitted, or I got to make sure I tell my kids, hey, take the meat out the freezer, or whatever the case may be. How is it that we find the time to pre-game for the actual game of yoga? Like we're on our way there. How is it that we turn everything off around us and focus on what's at hand? Because like you said, we don't really get that 60 minutes of uninterrupted time much.
You're right. And as an instructor, believe me, I'm teaching a class today at 3:00. I know that people have had all sorts of things going on in their day prior to them getting in that room. How can I ground them to start the class with? How can I get their minds like in a complete blank slate? That's always a challenge. And we do it through music. We do it through, the scents and the smells in the room, the calming essential oils, and just trying to create that environment of, you're here, you're safe. Let's do this for 60 minutes and just completely unplug.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So it's a challenge.
Now, to those listeners, viewers at home who may have been thinking about joining yoga or whatever the case may be, what will be your method of going to give them the welcoming experience for their first time coming to Santosha Yoga?
So how do I welcome people?
Yes,
Basically, I personally text every new student to the studio. So I get alerts on my phone when I have new students, and I text them. I just welcome them. I let them know this is my cell phone. Call me, text me if you have any questions. I always like to know how they found the studio, because I always want to thank the person who referred them.
Of course,
I think that's very important. And I think just from off the bat, just letting them know, we're excited to have you here. I'm here to answer any questions you have so that when you walk into our studio, you automatically feel comfortable.
Of course.
So that's how we welcome people right off the bat. I just want them to know, like, this isn't a corporation. This isn't a nameless, faceless leader of this organization. Like, this is a real person, and you can contact me with any questions you have.
Of course, of course. Now, I noticed you said that you have a team of over 20 different trainers, teachers. Can you just tell us a bit about what goes into maintaining a strong, effective team?
That's a really great question, too. My gosh, Devon, you're making me really think this morning. Just creating like a team atmosphere. So for me, family is first. In my life, family is first. And I think the same way for all of my instructors. So if my instructors have an issue where one of their children is sick or is in a championship game of something, or many of my instructors have full-time jobs outside the studio, or other constraints or health issues, or whatever the case may be, your family and your health is first and foremost. We will always be able to find someone to fill your class. So Santosha is second in my book. Their family and their lives are first. So I think creating that kind of culture is important to maintain quality instructors. It's important to compensate people well for the talents that they give and that they bring. And I recognize how important that is. And I just think having open lines of communication, you have to have tough conversations with people all the time when you're in a business environment, and just being honest with people about things, and so they know where they stand with you. I think that's also important as well.
Of course. Love the answer. Love the answer. As we get ready to close out this phenomenal episode, ma'am, can you just tell us a bit about the mark that you want to leave when it comes to your legacy on the culture and just the overall thought of Santosha Yoga that's going to be associated with Joya Santarelli?
Oh my gosh, Devon, that's a tough one. I mean, I've worn a lot of hats in my life in terms of different careers and jobs and whatnot and roles that I've had. And I've never really found something that I knew I wanted to do. Like when I was practicing law, I didn't want to be practicing law. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't like my calling. I didn't have a calling. I never did until about 2020, until I started this whole thing that came out of nowhere, very organically done. It wasn't done to make money. It wasn't done for anything other than I enjoy practicing yoga and teaching yoga, and it's helped me in my life. So I want to help other people. And there is no kind of BS around it, to be honest with you. It was all very organic and honest and genuine and authentic. So I finally found, my passion in life and what I really believe I was sent here to do. In terms of leaving a legacy, I just hope people are better off because of their time that they've spent at the studio. And I believe that they are. I believe they are. I believe lives are being changed every day. I believe people are believing in themselves in so many different ways that they hadn't before. They're meeting new people. They're finding new strengths that they never knew that they had before. And I believe the practice of yoga is essential to this whole transformation amongst people. So I'm proud to be a little part of it.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It's crazy that you say that because I tell people this all the time. Like, we even talked about this before we started. When you do it and you operate things with love, you're going to be the best at it because you're not thinking about the money. You're not thinking about the quotas that you have to meet. You're not thinking about, how am I going to pay my mortgage with this? Or how am I going to pay this? You're doing it just because this is what you want to do. And that's what I was telling you about when it comes to the platform. This is something that I was doing for free off of the love of comic books. This all started with my love of Marvel comic books and Captain America, Spider-Man, things of that nature. And it has just transformed into this big talking table, and it's like, how are you getting paid off of something that you love? Because you don't look at it as like work. You don't approach it with, I got to do this because I got to pay my bills, or I got to do this. You do this with intent. You do this with love. You do it with affection. You do it with causations. You do it with everything of that nature that's going to be associated with the inner workings of your heart. And when you do it like that, you're setting yourself up for success. And that's why Santosha is being so successful, because you're operating with intent and with love and with those causalities things of that nature, ma'am. So we greatly appreciate you sharing that with us.
I think you're right. If it comes from the heart and it's from a truly authentic, genuine place, there's no way you can't succeed.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
You're doing it for the right reasons.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard it here first on Line for Line podcast. I'm your host with the most, Devon Booker. That has been Joya Santarelli. Joya, we appreciate you having some time for us.
Thank you so much.
You calling or you listening, tune in every week. Line for line.